Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Nick DiMartino from Review and Preview. A lot of news going on today. DeAndre Ayton just signed a 4-year, $133 million max contract with the Phoenix Suns. After a lot of speculation that for a while that they seem to have a little bit of a strained relationship. They matched the Indiana Pacers offer. I really got the sense that Phoenix didn't value DeAndre Ayton properly. I think they didn't value him enough in the same way that they valued Devin Booker and Chris Paul. Obviously, DeAndre Ayton is not the star player that Devin Booker to the levels of Devin Booker and Chris Paul, but he is probably, I would say, the third best player in the team and significantly increases their likelihood of being a championship contender. I mean, with DeAndre Ayton, and the Phoenix Suns are one of the top contenders. They have some of the best odds to win the finals next year. Without him, they certainly drop significantly. To me, it seemed like the Suns were not treating him as the star player with the value that he has. It took them a while to even offer him. Instead of just offering him a max contract, the Suns basically almost did something. It almost seems like something the Mets would do, where they, instead of offering him a max contract, they just waited for another team to offer him a max contract, to offer him that deal, just so they can match that deal. So that's just how they seem to value him. And based on how most teams treat their stars, given the fact that DeAndre Ayton is one of the best big men in the league, not as good as Joel Embiid or Jokic or anything like that, but he still is at least the top 5 center in the league right now. Given how teams usually treat their stars, it seems like the Suns didn't handle this right. They could have handled it. The front office could have handled it a lot better. Think about it. Usually when teams are willing to give players a max contract, they just offer it. They don't wait for another team to offer them a deal and then match that deal so they don't go. That's what they should have done. They should have just offered him the max contract and kept him happy, because keeping your stars happy in professional sports is a very important thing. Just like in the NFL, if you have a really good quarterback, you do what you can to keep the quarterback happy. You don't just try to pay them the minimum amount of money that maybe nobody else is willing, no other team is willing to pay them. It's not the smart thing to do, especially in today's NBA, where the players basically run the thing. And if they have friends that are on another team, they might team up and they might leave, or they might go somewhere else, whatever the case might be. The other thing is, last year, the other reason that I find this so fascinating is that, look, I have great respect for Chris Paul. Obviously, he is one of the best point guards of all time. No disrespect to him. It's also indisputable that he is a shell of his former self, not nearly as good as he used to be. And last year, the Suns offered him a 4-year, $120 million deal that expires when he's 40. So think about this. They're willing to pay Chris Paul an average of $30 million a year that expires when he's 40. So until Chris Paul is 40, which is geriatric by point guard standards, I mean, how good is Chris Paul going to be at that point? I mean, Chris Paul will always be a very good basketball mind, no matter how old he is. He'll always have some value. But it's fascinating to me that they were willing to offer Chris Paul that much money until he's 40 years old, but weren't willing to give DeAndre Ayton, who's one of the best centers, a top 5 center in the league right now. They had to wait for the Pacers to then offer him a contract for them to match it. It's just really weird that they would do that, especially given the fact that, look, if you're trying to win a championship, you have to keep your star players happy. And even though they match the deal, this has to leave some. I can only imagine that this can't help DeAndre Ayton's feelings about the Suns. I can't imagine that, even though he got the money, I can't imagine that there can't be a little bit of a bad taste in his mouth. all they did, I guess it seems like they thought nobody else would offer him a deal like that. So they thought, well, we should save a little bit of money. I don't know what they would have gained from it, honestly. How much less money would they have given him if nobody offered him a deal worth 4 years, $133 million? I don't know how much money they would have saved, but I do think that they're a significantly worse team without him than they are with him. Considerably worse, especially again, given the fact that they were willing to pay Chris Paul until he's 40. We don't know how good he's going to be in a couple of years. He might become very injured. I mean, when guys get older, they get more injury prone. They're not as athletic. For a guard that is just so old, and I can't imagine justifying paying Chris Paul that much money until he's 40 without just giving DeAndre Ayton a max deal. I think most teams, other than maybe a team like the Knicks, would have given DeAndre Ayton a max deal. So this seemed like a little bit of a screw up on the part of the Suns. But they eventually did the inevitable. They did what they had to do. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. I still don't. I still wouldn't pick the Suns to win the championship or anything like that, but they still have a much better shot to win it all. So they ended up doing the right thing eventually. So I guess we'll see what happens. Peace.